Forbes India, the Data Circle, India's Changemakers, presented by Snowflake.
Hello and a very warm welcome to Forbes India presents the Data Circle, India's Changemakers in association with Snowflake. I'm Mugdha Kalra. Global Capability Centers, or GCCs as they are called, have evolved rapidly, managing critical operations like finance, IT, analytics, and customer support. Today, India stands at the center of this transformation with numerous global enterprises building or expanding their presence in the GCC here. Generative AI is further accelerating this shift, enhancing efficiency, reducing costs, and turning GCCs into hubs of innovation and intelligent decision-making. It's not just about replacing what works, but about embedding AI to supercharge business values. Our theme for today is GCCs for Global Growth, building India's GenAI-powered tech stack for the world. To unpack this, we are joined by a distinguished panel of tech leaders. Let me take a moment to introduce you to them. Welcome to the show, Jayesh Prajapati, Head Pune Technology Center, SLB. Monika Chourasia, Executive Director and India Head of Technology, Kaiser Permanente. Sujith Cheruvatath, Managing Director and Head of GCC Markets, Snowflake. And Pankaj Vyas, CEO and MD, Siemens Technology and Services Private Limited. Welcome to all of you. What a pleasure to have all of you here. So first of all, let me start by asking all of you. Jayesh, let me start with you. How in your own organization did you feel that one breakthrough moment happened when a new tech led by Gen AI was adopted and you felt, this really should have done before, and now we are here?
If I have to give an example, not only within the organization, but again specifically within the GCC which I am heading, one breakthrough which I can think of is we have recently launched a huge data and AI platform. Right? So the business which we are in is like we are leading technology providers and solution provider for energy industry. And this is a very revolutionary platform. So one of the core capability of it is about conversational insight. Right? So where basically we make it now enable or possible for someone to interact with the system and then try to get the insights from tons of data available. So one of the biggest problem in the oil and gas and energy industry is like so much of data is available, especially the unstructured data, right? Almost, I'll say that 90% of the unstructured data is not even mined yet, right? So to have a capability which kind of opens doors for an interactive conversation, right, with all this unstructured data lying in all the different ecosystems and different data sources. Now, the GCC which I'm heading has been fortunate to kind of play a major role in that, right? So when I say major role in terms of architecture, technology development, and implementation. So it's a very, very proud moment for the organization and especially for the GCC to be leading that as from the front, right? And I think that is one thing I can think of right now as a breakthrough where it gave a lot of confidence to the team that yes, we have built something, we have showcased something to the world, and huge positive feedback from the customers. Right?
Fantastic.
So it's really, really very motivating.
That is the interesting bit that is coming pan-industry. And health, when we look at that sector, the biggest beneficiary of Gen AI and AI technology has been the health sector. You've been in the sector for a very long time. What have your learnings been? What has been some of the breakthrough moments, pan-industry, that you have noticed that have shaped the way we are looking at healthcare in the country today?
So very apt question, Mugdha, especially for the healthcare industry. We are all users of this industry, right? As patient, as members. So if you look at the industry, one of the biggest challenges that I used to feel, and I had gone through this experience also, was looking at people having tumors and cancers, and the mortality rate was much higher, if you remember around like 5-6 years back. But a couple of years back, what AI did to it was, looking at the images or the imaging diagnostics and then supporting the clinicians in identifying the detection. First is the identification of the tumor or the cancerous part in a body, and also predicting the progression of that tumor. So that was a big aha moment for me that, if somebody has it, and also by looking at the symptoms, they were able to say, okay, this can happen to you. There's a potential risk of a cancer or a tumor for this
Right.
patient. And by virtue of that, you are preempting that disease by happening in your body or in a relative's body and taking care of it much ahead in the curve. And also supporting clinicians in providing, treatment plans by
Yeah.
looking at the history and the data of various other patients who had this kind of a disease, and then providing the right treatment. That in itself is a big, big boon for all of us, I would say, as patients, right? We all
Right.
could have this in future, and God forbid we should not, but at least we can depend on Gen AI to support us in terms of, being able to identify and also preempt it. So that's
Of
one
course.
aha moment for me.
And of course, the processes, they have been
Yes.
made so easy
Easy.
now. And there has
Absolutely.
to be more adoption so that doctors can do what doctors
Yeah.
ought to be doing.
Yes.
But that also stands true for even your industry, Pankaj. There has to be R&D, there has to be cutting edge research, there has to be, a lot of infrastructure and mobility that is based on creativity as well. What has been one aha moment for the company? And then we talk about other stuff.
We know what we do here from India, right, in Siemens Technology and Services. We are really helping Siemens AG to enrich the products and services in industrial infrastructure and mobility, okay? And these are all the industries which are still getting connected and still generating a whole lot of data, right? Just to give you a kind of a context, and so I'm sure you all will appreciate this. An average size smart manufacturing unit generates about 10 terabytes of data a day. That's almost about 4,000 HD movies that we're talking about, right? Now, to be able to mine this data, convert it into information, into intelligence, and then act on it, I mean, it wouldn't have been possible if we did not have the kind of compute we have today, the kind of AI models that we have today, right? And this is just the beginning. Now, the two areas where we really see this is yielding an amazing, amazing return, one is really called industrial copilot. What do we mean by industrial copilot is today someone who is operating a plant or someone who is setting up a plant, right, can be trained much faster because there's a co-pilot sitting right there on the plant that you can work with, right? You don't really have to depend on a whole lot of manuals and carry those. So it really accelerates that, right? Once you have set up all of this, when it comes to monitoring the performance and making sure that there's a less wastage, better use of energy, much better quality and safety, you have digital twin, right? With digital twin, with this kind of data in the back end, and Gen AI giving you capability to have conversation with digital twin, right? It's a game changer. And I think it's really the beginning. And I just talked about industrial as an example, but that holds good for buildings, that holds good for electrification, and also for the mobility. So it's an amazing time right now, and we have just scratched the surface.
Sujit, the biggest question is that here we are talking industries. You are sitting at a place where you're working with perhaps organizations that come to you with a plethora of issues, with a plethora of opportunities, with a plethora of emergencies as well. And everybody is at a very different space and on their tech adoption timeline. How does it all come together, customized to their needs? And what is that one trend that you are noticing which perhaps can be put under the opportunity basket and perhaps can be put under the section of challenges?
I must say that all my fellow panelists here have indeed spoken about elements of the business and the data ecosystem, which is really what our organization looks to solve, right? So Prajapati mentioned about unstructured data. 80% of the world's data is unstructured, and we're not able to harness that to the fullest extent. That's a problem we're trying to solve with our platforms, where we are able to organize unstructured data along with structured and semi-structured data, and be able to provide our customers with insights and actionable analytics that they can drive their business for, right? So that's true business transformation. She mentioned about strides that they're making in the healthcare space. That's a big adopter of AI and related technologies today, right? Basic things like, access of patients to patient records, or, clarifying simple questions on their appointments, and, documentation that's related to their medical health and things like that today get organized in seconds versus what it used to take earlier. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's very advanced use cases, like she mentioned, on detecting diseases or anomalies and markers early in the life cycle. And all of that is powered by data and intelligence that's built around the data. And then, as Pankaj mentioned, there's so much of data to deal with. So, there's a saying at Snowflake, which is that we want to be able to bring AI to your data rather than take your data to AI. And that's been the guiding principles around how we've built the platform, which is where you're able to bring in structured, semi-structured, and unstructured data into one space, make sense of it, and you have data in multiple sources residing, multiple clouds, multiple locations, multiple formats. We simplify all that by bringing it in, and then being able to apply your AI modeling to it. And then we support several of the leading AI LLM models that are out there, like Anthropic and OpenAI and Llama and all of them, which means that it makes it a lot easier for customers to harness the data that they've already brought in and do more with it. Now, all of this works best if you have a really strong data strategy. So the other saying that we have, which is probably a borrowed saying from one of the industry leaders, is that there is no AI strategy without a data strategy.
Yes.
So my request out there would be to make sure that your data strategy is really strong and build it ground up. Because if you do not have clean and trusted data,
Governance.
with strong governance and guide rails around it for you to be able to do more with it and do the right things, then you're missing out on a trick. So you may as well get that right first.
Yeah.
If I may just add to what Sujith just mentioned. So there's no data strategy and there's no AI strategy. I believe it's data and AI today, right? They're all combined together because it's like garbage in, garbage out. So if your data is not clean, it's not of a good quality, then whatever AI you do on it will be very biased, a lot of hallucinations, and at the end you will not have good outcomes of it. So whatever insights or whatever you want to build on it will not be reliable. So as you rightly said, it has to be a data and an AI strategy coming
And
together.
someone has to do it for you, because a lot of times you are blinded by the hunger for data. But there never is that sieving that is happening to take the right data from the one that is perhaps fine as data, but is not usable. We see that in FMCG products. When you are doing the customer acquisition, there is so much data available about the customer, but it's invasion of privacy to even use that data. So you need to be sure about what data is usable and what is not. Pankaj?
I mean, if I have to add, one thing is really about the garbage in and garbage out. Just like our brain, what you feed in is going to give you that, right? Also importantly, as I said, we are still connecting the things. So IoT is still underway. So today you may build your models, your data strategy based on the current data available, but be aware, your data will change, your data sources would change, right? You may need different kind of data, and data strategy needs to kind of factor in all of that. It also has to be future ready. It needs to be scalable. And of course, then there's the cybersecurity.
Of course.
It cannot be an afterthought.
Yeah. That, of course, will be the game changer for everybody who's running in this race. But Jayesh, if I have to get you in, with a data-intensive industry like yours, where exploration and energy is being spoken about, there's enormous streams of sensors and geospatial data is available. And, I was reading through it. What is your Pune GCC up to solving all of these complex things? And, could you share some use cases? What exactly is happening here?
AI has to work on which is data which is AI ready,
Right.
right? And we talked about garbage in, garbage out. One of the interesting fact about it is that the implication, right, of AI driven decisions are very huge in oil and gas and energy industry, right? So in a typical retail industry, let's say if somebody recommends a wrong TV, right, if while you're searching for a phone, I think the impact is still, the circle of impact is less. But in this industry, if the decisions are predictive decisions or recommendations, right, are not up to the mark, then we're talking about not only the implications in terms of cost, but also in terms of life, also in terms of environment, right? So one of the challenges is also in terms of trusting AI-driven decisions, right? And then what we are doing for that is basically whatever AI platforms which we are building, they're building on three principles, right? One is democratization, right? Which means that what we say is, okay, in this entire value chain, right? All the different personas, all the different touch points, right? They kind of get the same level of access or same transparency of access to the data. For example, a geologist, geophysicist, right? Somebody is in the drilling site, somebody is like an environmental scientist, right? So all this data is available in a transparent way so that the more informed decisions are taken, right? Second thing is we're also talking about getting stakeholders involved in whatever workflows we are building, right? So it basically also gives trust in terms of what is being built. The second part is about the agility also, right? So what happens is not only in terms of building AI platform, but as rightly said, we have different elements of data, right? Different, or you can say flavors of data or different attributes of data. Typically what we talk about velocity, variety, and volume, right? On top of that, we also talk about, you just talked about the streaming data, right? Which is a very key critical data in the production system, right? So we have all this data coming in, which talks about the production flow. So some of the success stories we have is we have built some kind of a tools and platforms which have given customers, let's say in Middle East, around 88% basically a prediction, right? In terms of if there is a failure of equipment or a maintenance. So it basically helps them to prevent unplanned shutdown. Right? The same similar cases we have in the North America also. So in production, in exploration, as you mentioned, right? So in exploration, we're talking about real user scalability, because now we're talking about data not only in megabytes, right? We talked about terabytes and petabytes of data. So taking that petabytes of data and exploring it, but then we have to build a platform which can give a seamless user experience, but also seamless kind of an experience in terms of how to deal with different kind of data at a scalable level, right? So a lot of elements which plays in, but then in terms of what Pune is doing, right? And I'm very happy to kind of share with you that the Pune GCC, which I'm heading, is now last year we completed 10 years, right? It's grown organically, right? But then it's grown to a level where now we are very engaged, right? In terms of decision making, in terms of collaboration, in terms of contribution. So a lot of these architecture decisions, a lot of the technology decisions are been kind of driven a lot from here as well, right? So which basically helps us to get the skin in the game. And one of the points we also mentioned, I think, often when we are discussing about talent, right? One thing we also realized, right? If you really want to have a good talent, you have to give them good work, right? And this is something which has helped out very well for us, right? Because the kind of work which we are doing, we just kind of scratch the surface of it. It's really exciting for all the talent pool which we have, right? So this is kind of very cyclic thing, right? So, I mean, more energy comes in by new ideas, and then it kind of fuels more talent getting excited, and then more attracting more talent, right? So it's working out very well. But you're right, coming to the question, the sensor data, the exploratory data, and in fact the production data, right? So everything, we are into all the life cycle, you can say, of the energy, or we are into the entire value chain. And we are looking at it, I mean, just to summarize, the platform which we are building, especially on the AI side, is based on democratization and also agility and scalability, right? Scalability of the data, scalability of the user interface. And agility, the reason I also want to mention is there was a talk about emerging technology, right? We're just getting started, as we hear, right? So new technology is going to slowly mature, right? So there are new models coming up. Even the cost is kind of getting a little competitive. So the platform which we're building, it makes it very seamless to adopt that, right? The last thing we want to do is, we kind of adopt in the latest technology, and then the customer feels a hit of it, right? So that is what very important, that the platform which we're building is very, very agile, right? It's very seamless for user to kind of, avail or kind of reap the benefit of the latest technology without getting, impacted. Right? So.
Yeah, and I think if I take the thread forward, I think health industry will benefit a lot if there is adoption at scale. Because then you are seeing the return on investment, return on time invested, and you're also seeing faster utilization with lesser hallucinations, with lesser of those issues. And I feel somewhere processes can definitely benefit because we are so many, and those processes. So if I were to ask you which area of healthcare sector should be prioritized to start with, because there are so many other places where it can be involved, would you also agree it should be the processing at the moment which has to be cornered first?
I would say two areas which are very important. One is internally focused, which is the internal processes that you have, like documentation. So, you have your reports, the clinician clinicians write their summary and, you know, the discharge reports and all of that. So today what we can do is a speech to text. So rather than writing it down, they can just, you know, basically verbally voice it out, and then it is, you know, kind of converted into a text document.
True.
And then stored much easier.
Yeah.
So that's one area which is more internally focused. And then the other area is the patient engagement. That how do you ensure that your patients are getting, you know, easier scheduling of their
Yes.
appointments if they are staying far away from the hospitals, especially in the US. We also have started care at home services. So in that area, what happens is that you have certain clinicians who need to visit the patient and then do all the, you know, treatment at home,
Yep.
because those are like elderly patients, etc., and they are not able to come over to the clinics. Now, in this situation, you also need to do a optimization of their routing, right?
Right.
So if they are not on the optimized route, then they keep on wasting so many hours on the route. So that's another area that we are exploring, which is benefiting us a lot and helping us in saving a lot of hours and a lot of money. Then from a patient engagement and experience perspective, it's also helping them out, because
Right.
you are reaching to the patient at the right time. They are not waiting for you. And scheduling of appointments, as I said, then there are certain virtual assistants that are there which can help in triaging the symptoms. So if there are some symptoms that the patients are saying, then they can, you know, just talk to the virtual assistant and help in quicker diagnosis of the problem and any FAQs and all that. So there is one is outwardly focused, which is looking
Yeah.
at the patient side of the lens, and the other is inwardly focused, looking at the clinicians and the doctors and how do you support and make their life much easier. So these are the two areas which I feel if healthcare industry focuses on, maybe 80% of the issues will be resolved, because these
Yeah.
are the areas which kind of happen more frequently and much abundance of these situations in most of the healthcare organizations.
In fact, with preventive healthcare, you know, GenAI
Gen AI.
is
Yeah.
doing a lot of
it.
brilliant work, because I was reading somewhere about how the number of patients that show up at your government hospitals in India can come down relatively if the preventive healthcare GenAI systems are in place, where you are already looking at perhaps an
data.
ailment and data. You know, it was very interesting to see in India how there are different states that have different ailments. So, for example, somewhere around Nagpur, I was reading, they don't have dengue that much as Udaipur.
Yeah.
And when that data comes, and you know, we was talking to somebody about these drugs being tested in India, and they said India is so different because you have to have Gen AI talk about the data that is being, it's like mini Indias. So, you know, the north is completely different when it comes to
Yes.
where the genetic
So
disposition.
the seasonality will
Yeah.
be very different from very
Yeah.
different regions because
Yeah.
of the climate,
Correct.
the, you know, the people that
The
are
genetic
living, the
disposition
genetic
of,
disposition, yeah.
So it's very, very,
Very
exciting
different,
there.
very different.
In fact, that's a great example of where the emerging technology
Yeah.
really helps, right? Because you're going to be able to link weather patterns to geographic data, to demographic data, to medical data, right? So, and there's a lot more. I'm just covering some
Yeah.
of them. But to be able to bring that all together and then make sense out of it and do something
I get
useful.
I get excited about healthcare. So you know, yeah.
just
So I'll come back. I'll come back to the point now.
So just one point I wanted to add to what Sujith was saying, the wearables.
Oh, yes, of course.
That's a big thing,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
The data that's kind of, it's accumulating on a daily basis, and that is giving so much of intel to the healthcare industry in terms of predicting your issues and symptoms and risk. That's like mind-boggling.
Yeah. Pankaj, if I may get your industry perspective here, and we talk about smart cities and we talk about infrastructure mobility. How does that come together at Siemens, and what are some of the exciting things that we can look forward to?
As I said, you know, at Siemens Technology, right, we are not just about smart cities, but it's really about industries, infrastructure,
Correct.
and mobility, if I have to repeat that, correct? And for us, it's really about the business that we are in. There's a whole lot of time and energy, human time and energy also gets invested in deployment and commissioning, right? I mean,
Right.
these are like really hard asset businesses, correct? And any efficiency that we can bring into this areas, right? Be it commissioning and engineering, has a direct impact
Right.
on overall efficiency of the resource utilization, correct? So that's clearly one of the areas that we continuously focus on, okay? And if I have to really even give you two big baskets where we continuously work on using Gen AI, and all the emerging technologies, it's really about enhancing the products and improving the productivity, right? Those are the two large areas, correct? Now, within those scheme of things, if you look at the latest announcements that Siemens AG had done about a couple of years back, it's called Siemens Accelerator. Okay, so basically a digital business platform where we are providing the solutions that will help you connect real and digital world, right? And it has three major pillars to work on. One is the product and technologies, second is ecosystem, and third is marketplace. So what we do out of our India office here at Siemens Technology is really focus on product and technologies, okay? And across the boards, if I have to talk about certain specific examples here, for example, Building X, okay? Building X really is a suite of digital solutions which really help you make buildings more efficient, safe, comfortable. One of the applications there, it's called Comfort AI, okay? What it does is it really builds thermal models of every section of your building to say what kind of solar radiation you're getting there, what's the live utilization that's going on, so that you can start arranging your HVACs appropriately. Because most of the times you would see HVACs react after the incident has happened. But if you could really have a thermal model and keep adding more and more data to it, you could not only make experience comfortable, but you could save a whole lot of energy also there.
Yeah, like Jayesh mentioned about safety and predicting.
Here it is, right?
Yeah.
So this is one example. Second example, if I have to talk about on the electrification side of it, it's called Electrification X, right? Everything ends with X if you're ready for
X factor.
accelerator, okay? That's an X factor here. So Electrification X basically is bringing your complete grid on digital network. You're saying you have a digital twin of your grid, literally. You have all your substations on grid,
So you can see it as
on
a
digital. You
twin,
can see it
yeah.
live. Every asset on a substation is right there. So you can really monitor ahead of time, as Jayesh talked about, to avoid the downtime which is unplanned. And unplanned downtime in electrification, you understand, avoiding that has a huge, huge positive impact, right? Second, also, looking at the carbon emission, CO2 emission that's happening in this whole substations. So that's the second example. I mean, I can go on and on because those are all the examples, just the amount of data these industries are generating and what we are able to do with this as we connect real and digital world. I think we are going to see more and more use cases coming up.
Pankaj, it's like making of a sci-fi film. You know, you have a digital twin, and that's where Snowflake, the hero, comes in, where you have data fragmentation, lack of real-time access, unclear governance at times. So what are really the building blocks, the core building blocks that these industries should put in place when they are looking at their Gen AI tech? And where do you guys come in? What do you do for them? Especially because in spite of so much being available, not everything is applicable to say an org. How does that sieving happen?
I think the key is to be able to bring in the data. And as Pankaj mentioned, you have data from the real world and then you have digital data.
Yeah.
You got to be able to harness all of that and then bring it in to a common place where you can then process it. So our technology helps customers, bring in data from disparate sources, but with the underlying, philosophy that it's all trusted and governed.
Yeah.
Which means that we are providing customer a safe environment to bring their data into in a managed environment, which is governed with compliances and industry standard regulations. So you don't need to worry about the security of the data. So technologies around data masking and data flow and all of those are already incorporated into the platform, which means that customers focus on what they want from a business standpoint, and they're not worried about where the data is and how it's managed and is it vulnerable, etc. So encryption, all of those technologies which are fairly advanced now, and we see a lot more, we are incorporating into the platform. So by providing that, and then overlaying that with AI capabilities, right? So that then makes it really powerful for customers. And it can be persona based. So whether they are a business user or a technical user, they could be a data engineer, they could use it for AI ML workloads, they could use it for analytics workloads, or they could use it to build applications. Now, what we've done beyond that is that we've also built an ecosystem where you can share this data with other parties in a secure manner. So we have technologies like clean rooms where two different parties can come together, get their data, and build a data product without necessarily compromising on each other's security or
Interesting.
confidentiality. What that does is it then helps you build an ecosystem and do more with not just your data, but data that belongs to someone else as well, for the third party to benefit from that. So this connected ecosystem,
Right.
where there's also secure content sharing and being able to build data products, I think it's just, again, we've scratched the surface, because there's so much more companies can do. They'll be doing it internally with their internal
Yeah, I was just
data
gonna,
that's
yeah, ask
available and the
Pankaj
data
about
estate that they
yeah.
have internally. But imagine if they have a partner out there who's complementary to what they're doing, and then they're able to also leverage and harness that data. So we provide the AI cloud data platform that allows customers to do this. And we're going to continue innovating. So our promise to customers is that, let us deal with the disruptions. You guys keep your eye on the ball on your business and how you want to grow that business and what you want to do on it, while we deal with the disruption that goes underneath.
Wonderful. Pankaj, this cross-sector solutions with Gen AI is interesting because there's so many verticals that you also have. How does that happen seamlessly at your end?
I mean, definitely, it really goes back to the data and AI together, correct? We don't focus on data in isolation and AI in isolation, correct? And also, especially the industry that we come from, the context of the data, the domain behind the know-how of the data is extremely important, right? So the way we really go about is when we really look at training our people, right? Our learning is not just about technology, correct? There's a complete stack that we train people on. It's really about technology know-how, there's a product know-how, there's a domain know-how, and there's a business know-how.
True.
To us, that's really about the competency stack when we look at our people at Siemens Technology and Services, right? Because for the problems that we are talking about, using AI and Gen AI is not anymore about adding few lines of code. It's not about adding just another feature. It's really about solving a business problem. It's really about changing the existing workflow or adding a new workflow. And that cannot happen unless your people are really trained on domain know-how
Yeah.
and business know-how. So with that context in place, data strategy becomes even more important, because data strategy needs to factor in what kind of data are you talking about, what's the context behind it, right? As you said, unstructured and structured. So for us, structured also means context aware, domain aware, and business aware data.
And it's also, I think, about giving your current human workforce those assistants that can, so it's almost like every employee has their own assistant to be able to make those decisions with more agility and in real time. But Jayesh, to the point that you mentioned, that you are giving enough and more opportunities to your employees at your own GCCs where they feel charged and inspired to come to work. Having said that, if I were to put this question to Monika, she will tell me that there is a talent pool crisis. Where is the talent coming from? How do you retain the current talent that perhaps there is all ages working together? What are the challenges? What are the opportunities?
On the AI side, I think now it's getting a little bit, I will not say commoditized, we're just getting started, right? So there's a lot of people kind of taking interest in AI.
Right.
So the talent pool slowly is increasing in terms of getting someone who is very good on the technology side of it, right? The digital part of it. But then the main value comes, right? As we also hear about the context, right? So when we have this talent coming in, AI is still a tool as such, right? So the value of it is harnessed only when it is applied to a business workflow, right? And then we are aiming towards building workflows which will make it more sustainable, affordable, accessible, right? So we need to add value to the business, right? So we look for two kind of talents, right? One is about digitally savvy talent, which I think the pool is slightly increasing, right? Because the reason for that is also not only because of the awareness of technology, but because the demand of it, right? And since the demand is there, a lot of people, irrespective of what field they are in, they're slowly educating themselves to the AI, right? Second thing which we are also doing on the technology side is internally we are running AI literacy program. So we also understand that what AI means to each role is very different. Right? So what we are saying is, okay, for HR, they need to know certain bits of AI, right? What will help them to kind of optimize their processes. For finance, they need to know certain pieces of AI. But when I have data scientists, they need to know a little bit more. So when I have architects and developers, they need to know about MCP, A2A, and stuff like that, right? So the depth of AI which is required for each role is very different. So what we're trying is like we're running AI literacy program, targeting on the roles, right? And making them more literate, and then tracking that. The third part is about the domain, right? Which is where the differentiation comes in. Now that is one place I will say we still can do better, right? Because so this domain is so vast, so huge. To get someone in Pune, right, in India, I think we can honestly, I think we can still do better, right? But that is one challenge which we are working on. How we are doing it is also we are kind of collaborating with universities, right, and then making sure that we hire the right talent and then give that kind of an environment. I'm running a GCC here as a digital center, but then mine is the second largest digital center in the world in SLB, but there are other 9 digital centers also. So we collaborate with each other, right? We tap into the expertise with each other. So even though it's a local GCC, but then we work as one global organization, right? So because there's a lot of talent pool in the domain side across different time zones, right? So there are various ways. Also we have partners, right? Just to name one, for example, NVIDIA is a very close partner with whom we work on the technology side also. And a lot of other partners as well, right? So we harness the relationship which we have with universities, partners within the organization across time zones, right? So this is how we're trying to kind of uplift on the domain side. On the technology side, yes, I mean, I think the talent pool is slowly increasing, but then that doesn't mean that we'll get ready-made talent pool. We'll still have to roll out very proactive, intentional efforts we'll have to put in, right, to kind of keep uplifting and then training them. That is what we have observed.
Pankaj, employability still becomes a challenge because you do have young graduates coming out of universities, supposedly with Gen AI degrees now, because now it is the hot subject. Having said that, the internal culture has to be that of continuous learning and unlearning, more to say. But do you feel in the next 5-6 years there will be much larger demand, of course, but will there be a supply, or does the talent pool need to be harnessed in a different way?
It's true for all the domains, irrespective of what we guys operate in, correct? And it's not just about having a learning culture, but learning culture needs to be driven by very clear objectives. I mean, what we try to do, what we're attempting to do, right, is you learn to improve your productivity on what you're doing today. Absolutely. You got to do better at what you do today. But also your learning has to be about future ready. And being future ready is starting to take more and more portion of the learning hours. Right? Clearly that's happening. True. Now it's not just about the gap of the new hires that you talked about, right? That's a very interesting part. It's also about unlearning and learning for the experienced ones. That's a lot more important aspect than bringing in the young ones, right? In the system, exactly. I mean, that's a lot more important factor here. Now, coming to would we have a lot more demand than the supply? It really depends on every organization how you approach it, correct? If there's a tool like Gen AI, if there's a technology like Gen AI, which is accelerating at much, much higher pace than human ability to learn, if you start using that tool itself to learn, you may land up learning faster also, right? So it's really about using tools, solutions or the technologies like Gen AI available where you should also accelerate your learning using this kind of platforms. It's extremely important. If you just go on your traditional learning approach, it's given that we will fall behind because just the pace of this technology evolution is unprecedented today.
Absolutely. And Monika, when we look at the industries of the future, we are only looking at health as one of the leading ones. Of course, I mean, from energy and smart cities and infra, but, health is one industry which is future-proof. And when you look at the inventions, the new diseases that are coming in, more responsibility that people feel towards their own health. And really, the industry is so huge. And every vertical of the health industry demands not just know-how, but no absolutely space for an error, because you are dealing
Yeah,
with people's
absolutely.
lives.
Yeah.
How easy or difficult then it is today to find that combination in the health sector? And do you feel that all the right talent pool is going to their industries and not coming to health?
From a technology perspective, there is humongous amount of talent available in India. You name it, like the kind of technologies we talk about, Java, .NET, databases, all of those, like which we have been working for last maybe 20 years. We see a lot of it. Even AI, if you look at it, for last 10 years, we have been seeing a lot of influx of talent pool, because the universities have also started picking up these courses in their curriculum. And then we have these specialized courses being offered by various organizations and institutions which are also trying to create a future-ready talent for people who are already in the workforce, right? So from a technology perspective, I don't feel that India has any dearth of talent. But the most important part is the context, the business, right? If you don't understand the business, what is the outcome going to have an impact on your user?
Right.
Then, no matter how technology savvy you are, you will not be able to create the right product. So co-creation of product, as we say, where the users are also involved, the technologists are also involved, and somebody who understands and breathes the product is also involved, is what I believe is the future for us, especially in the healthcare, right? Because as you rightly said, there is absolutely no scope of errors allowed, because we will not want anybody to get impacted due to somebody going wrong in a diagnosis, somebody going wrong in a treatment or in a surgery. So context is very important, and what we try doing when we hire the talent which is technology savvy, we first of all ensure that they go through a very detailed, rigorous training on healthcare. Because we are primarily in the US healthcare segment, we try to do it the US healthcare industry knowledge. Then post that, what we also ensure is that there is a very rigorous upskill program also available for people who have been working on legacy technologies.
Right.
Because that's one thing that the knowledge worker of today is actually demanding from any organization, that how are you ensuring that my employability is maintained? I will be retained within the organization as long as you make me as much employable as you can make me, and any other organization picks me up. So upskilling is a very, very important thing. Another thing that we also focus on, just to ensure that people are retained and the talent is inside the organization, is mobility opportunities within the functions, across the functions, across locations, because that is another thing that I think the India talent, is very, very keen on, and especially the Gen Zs, right? The new generation. They get bored very quickly, so you need to keep them excited.
Challenged.
You need to keep them challenged. So it's very important that you give them the upskilling and the mobility opportunities. And last, the most important thing is the accountability and sense of ownership and belonging. That's very important for any employee of an organization. So to ensure that that sense of belonging is there, we ensure they're a part of co-creation while developing the policies of the organization, the culture of the organization, so that they feel that it's my family, it's my organization. So by imbibing all of these principles and practices, I think we have been able to have a very healthy and good talent pool within the organization, and hoping that the retention is very high.
Sujith, if I may get you in and let you have the last word on this, like data, information and knowledge is also there in abundance. Having said that, Indians in their universities and their schooling system are taught rote learning and taking in all the data in such a way that that isn't an issue. But where does Snowflake come in when they say, we'll train you on the right knowledge skill set, versus having to learn everything which is not usable, like the garbage in, garbage out data, the garbage in, garbage out knowledge as well?
So the good news is that Snowflake recognizes this opportunity in India Today, there's more than 1.9 million employees in the GCC ecosystem. Our CEO, Sridhar Ramaswamy, recently announced the 1 Million Minds program. Essentially, that's focused at making sure that we are able to provide enablement, readiness, and training to the growing workforce. And a big chunk of that workforce in the world is in India. So you will see disproportionate investments from us coming in the form of trainings, hands-on labs, hackathons, and all of it, right? So we're going to have both public sessions, which is where anybody who wants to sign up can sign up and register and do this. And then we'll also have, private sessions for specific customers. And believe me, customers have huge number of employees with a lot of interest, right? And then to the earlier point that Pankaj made, which is that the trick is to use the technology to get ahead. And I think one of the advantages of a lot of the current available AI technology and models is that even people who are otherwise not informed on it at all genuinely have the opportunity to upskill themselves. As conversational AI gets more mature, you can literally talk to your trainer, which would be a AI avatar or a persona, and then you can upskill yourself. So you can literally use it to your advantage at your pace. But having said that, it is important for us to continue investing in the talent pool. As we all know, there's a lot that's happening between industry and academia, but there's always a gap, especially in a place like India. And that can get addressed by industry players such as ourselves, who invest in making sure that the talent pool and the workforce are, have access to the latest and the greatest.
Jayesh, when we are looking at the future, your boldest hope or prediction for how Gen AI can redefine GCC landscape in the country?
So I'll say there's a lot of opportunity, right, which goes again without saying as well, right? Coming to GCC, a couple of places where I think GCC can make a big impact, right? One is we talk about digitization, then automation, right? But then now moving from automation to intelligence, right? Where we're talking about focusing on agentic workflows, right? So we're talking about focusing on agentic and then autonomous agents, right? So to be very precise, this is a place where I think we're getting started, but then if GCCs kind of put a mark on that, that's going to be a huge game changer, right? Because, so I'm just being extremely precise here, because that is a place where it's going to redefine how the business workflows are executed, right? Because not only now we're talking about making AI-driven decisions, but also talking about the personas who are taking decisions are also AI-driven, right? So if I have to put a finger on one thing, I'll say, autonomous agentic framework is something which I think is going to be a very exciting opportunity for GCs to focus on, right, to make a bigger impact.
Wonderful. All right, Monika.
I would say hyper-personalized, predictive, easily available and scalable healthcare platform is what I'm looking for. That should be available not just within India, across the globe, which should help us all in reducing the mortality rate, enhancing the patient experience, and finally, supporting the clinicians in easy diagnosis and faster diagnosis.
All right, Sujith.
Magda, you mentioned earlier there's about 1,800 plus GCCs in India, right? And that count is going to grow. But if you really look at them, they're all at different stages of maturity or different stages of operations as far as the value chain is concerned. Today, because of the talent pool and the technology available, all GCCs have the opportunity to operate at the highest level of the value chain by establishing data and AI, COE, or leveraging the talent pool that's available in India. So for those who are doing it, they're going to continue pushing the boundary, hire good talent, work with good platforms and technology to enable that. For those who haven't started the journey, get to it as soon as you can.
Pankaj.
GCCs have been on this trajectory of moving from just being a low-cost center to being a high-value center, right? And that really means having more and more ownership of the work that you do here. Ownership, I'm not talking about territorial, but in general about choice of technology, certain decision-making in the product and all that. Once you're on that trajectory, then second is what do you do with ownership? You want to accelerate, you want to innovate, right? And Gen AI is an amazing, amazing solution that's in front of us because it lets you experiment faster, it helps you fail faster, it helps you learn faster, and that means it really helps you innovate faster, clearly. So I would really say that GCCs have an amazing, amazing sweet spot. The ones who have started working on this trajectory, the ones who haven't, they can even get hit badly with this. That's a secondary. Now, the industry where I see from, I would say so far we have seen technology is getting democratized, then we saw information getting democratized. I think now intelligence is getting democratized. Everybody will have access to intelligence, not just people, but machines, people working at the plants, people, or even the workflows, and then not just the people, you will have the digital bodies like agents having intelligence in the whole workflow. So I really think there's a whole democratization of intelligence going on.
Fantastic. That has to be the best note we are leaving the show at, that there is democratization of intelligence for everyone, and the ones who are still contemplating whether to go on this journey. I think it's already a tad late. They should have started the journey yesterday, but I guess it's only time that will push them to take the journey sooner than later. Thank you so much to each one of you for giving me your time and for this wonderful discussion. This was really insightful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, on that note, it's a wrap. GenAI is truly reshaping India's GCC landscape, unlocking innovation, driving efficiency, and delivering global impact. With the right focus on talent, ethics, infrastructure, and tech, these centers are poised to lead the GenAI revolution. With that, it's a wrap on this special session. Until next time, thank you very much for joining us. Goodbye.
Forbes India, the Data Circle, India's Change Makers, presented by Snowflake.